A poem by David Harkins. You can shed tears that he is gone, or you can smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and pray that he'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that he's left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see him, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him only that he is gone, or you can cherish his memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what he would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Hawkins, and on behalf of all of us at Cardinal Funeral Homes, I'd like to welcome you for our time here together tonight as we remember Wayne Hill. First of all, to Wayne's family, to his beloved wife Donna, to his son Howie, his daughters-in-law Christine and Sarah, his grandchildren Emma, Bridget, Jarvis, and Austin, his sisters Lynn and her husband Ken, and Marlene and her husband Bob, and the many extended family members on both his and Donna's sides. To each one of you, I just want to begin by expressing my heartfelt condolences and thank you for the privilege of serving your family during this difficult time. Just a few weeks before our world was turned upside down by COVID-19, I found this sign in a thrift store that I thought would look good on my piano. Little did I know how much it would come to mean. It says, "Gather together." One of the key needs of the human race is to be together. Tribes, families, teams, communities, provinces, and countries, gathering for the common good, gathering for support, for entertainment, for shared vision and goals. Gathering becomes even more important during those moments in life when we stop to acknowledge a milestone. Things like birthdays, holidays, family reunions, graduations. It's this innate human drive that we have to be with others. That sense that the event is not properly recognized until the significant people in our lives gather to share it with us. Of course, this is especially true at the time of death. Our first inclination is to go, to commune, to hug them, to share stories, to break bread and eat, and to remember together. But during this unique time in the history of our world, we're being prevented from following our natural instincts. The rules of what is allowed and not allowed have changed a lot in the recent months, not to mention the challenges now that we have with traveling. So the question for many families became, how can we honor a life and mourn a death without all of the people that we love physically surrounding us? I believe a virtual celebration of life like this one is one way. And though, of course, it is not the same as gathering together physically, I have been grateful to witness time and time again over the last 11 months that it is possible to be together from afar, and that we can trust that we can create a sense of community even when we're isolated. For those of you who are joining now, or those watching the recording at a later time, on behalf of the family, thank you so much for your presence here today. It means more than you can imagine. And if you have a YouTube account, we want to encourage you to comment as we move throughout the service. Send all of your love and words of comfort to the family. Send your comments. Maybe it's going to be, OMG, I remember that story, or whatever else comes to mind. I loved that quality about Wayne too. To you, Donna, Howie, and family, my hope is that you will all be able to sense the love and the warmth being sent your way today as we remember Wayne together. Let me just also add one more note. It's my hope that as we move throughout the different parts of our ceremony that we have planned tonight, that wherever you are, that it's a safe place for whatever emotions are bubbling up within you, that you can just let them be. Let's let the tears fall as they come. And let's also not be afraid of letting the laughter heal as well, as we know Wayne loved a good laugh. Because it's my experience that it's often the laughter through the tears that can begin to feel a little bit like healing. They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So before we get into some of the storytelling and memory sharing, let's take a few moments to look at some of the snapshots from Wayne's time here with us. Take a look. Well, I've had the honor of serving as a life tribute celebrant for many different people over the years. Some died after a long and eventful life, some before their full story could be told. There have been many different backgrounds, faiths, interests, and stories. But I find that each person often has an arc to their life, a theme to their experiences, a word or a phrase that can help us to picture them in our mind's eye. I try very hard to discover what that theme might be when I meet with the family, to hear the stories and to understand the person that we will come together to memorialize and to celebrate. And the theme with Wayne seemed to ring pretty loudly was hockey refereeing. Yes, if you knew Wayne at all, you knew his passion for the game of hockey and his role as a referee with a few different leagues, including the Burlington Minor Hockey, Burlington Old Timers Hockey Club, and the Ontario Major Junior A Hockey League, otherwise known as the OHL. Watching Wayne on the ice was like watching magic. Who knew that somebody could be so focused and so accurate with the calls he made and yet completely animated and entertaining to watch? I found this quote. It was a football referee who once described his job as trying to maintain order during a legalized gang brawl involving a bunch of toughs with a little whistle, a hanky, and a ton of prayer. Hockey referees make calls of hooking, kneeing, holding, penalty, minor or major interference, slashing, and many, many more. And so, friends and family, as we now move into a time of hearing stories and reflections on Wayne, I'd like to invite you to think about what important calls did Wayne make throughout his life that led him to have such a rich and meaningful one. To introduce our first speaker, I have a quote from writer Umberto Eco, who once said, I believe that what we become depends on what our fathers teach us at odd moments when they aren't trying to teach us. We are formed by little scraps of wisdom. Let's take a few moments to listen to Howie Hill share a bit about how he's been formed by being Wayne's son.
Hi, I'm Howie. I'm Wayne and Donna's son. I've always said that I was the luckiest kid in the world, even though I'm 56, I still say that. Dad was the perfect father, and as many of you know as well, he was perfect in more ways than just that. He was the perfect husband. He was the perfect father-in-law, the perfect grandfather. And many of you may say he was pretty much a perfect friend, a perfect relative. I don't know how he became the person that he was. His father passed away when he was 16, when Dad was 16. And I distinctly remember the time when I was 16, becoming 17, and he was going without a net. How he knew what to do, how he knew how to become such an incredible mentor to not only me, but my brother and then his grandkids, without having that mentorship himself. He did so many things instinctively because of that loss and that absence in his life. He had to make it up as he went, I guess. When he was in his 20s, he began refereeing. He never had the opportunity to play organized hockey as a kid because of the means in which he grew up, but also again, of course, when he had to go to work at 16 years old at Stelco to support his family. But at 20, he began refereeing, and somehow, without ever playing the game, a few years later, he was being offered NHL contracts, having refereed in Major Junior A. incredible. I didn't find that out until I was maybe about 12 or 13, but he was making more at the steel mill at that time. And he turned those offers down. But incredible to have never played the game, and in a few short years getting to that level of expertise, of skill. But it was more than just skill. He just had an instinct for life, for refereeing, for treating people, being with people. He did so much for all of us. Again, without that mentorship that he might have had as a young man, but he just did it. He had it in him somehow. There isn't a house, a home in the neighborhood or in other parts of Southern Ontario that don't have a Wayne Hill stamp on it. Be it decks, be it windows, doors, fireplace surrounds, hardwood flooring. He's done everything. And I often joke, if there isn't a stairway to heaven or a pearly gates, if there wasn't before, there is now, because dad's there doing it. We can all thank him, I think, for the way that he touched our lives. I've taken so much in my life from Dad. Every time that I do something good, it would be because of Dad. Every time that I put my paddle in the water and portage a canoe, that'd be because of Dad. Catching and cleaning a fish, that's Dad. Every time I do anything nice and be a nice person, that's Dad. He wasn't just the kind of person I think that we all would like to be like, but he was really the kind of person that we would like to be in many ways. I wanted to, when Dad refereed his last game, I sent him a letter, and looking back on it now, it's really quite metaphorical for his life, not just being on the ice. So maybe you can switch out some of the words where it's talking about being on the ice and just being life instead. Congratulations on your final game, Dad. There are so very few people in any sport, I am sure, who have earned the amount of respect that you have from all the people whose lives you have touched. Referees, players, and even fans of the game are literally better people because of the way you called a game and helped the game and them be better. Everyone looks up to you because of the way you respected them, had fun with them, and even nurtured them into becoming better hockey players and fans of the sport. It was the natural ability that you had to do all of that made you so special. Everyone appreciates the amount of sacrifice, professionalism, and dedication you gave to the sport and to the city. I certainly benefited from the kind of person you were both on and off the ice. I was Wayne's kid. That alone got me cred around the community, not just at the rink. I'm always proud to be your son because of who you are to me and who you are to so many other people. Thanks from everyone who was ever lucky enough to be on the ice with you. Thanks from everyone who was lucky enough to see you work a game so magically. Thanks from everyone who was lucky enough to learn from you. And thanks from your family for making us so proud and for making us who we are and for always being the incredible example of good and giving. We love you, Pa. Congratulations.
Thank you, Howie. Well, we know Wayne and Donna loved to travel. And what a gift for them to be able to experience places all over the world, including but not limited to Iceland, Scotland, Italy, Spain, Germany, Australia, different places in Africa, China, India, the Americas, and more. By the time their traveling days were over, Wayne and Donna were able to say to each other, "I think we've run out of places to go." Robert Louis Stevenson wrote, "We are all travelers in the wilderness of this world, and the best that we can find in our travels is an honest friend." I would like to add to that, though, that sometimes you don't have to travel that far to find that honest friend. Sometimes we find them in a neighbor, a fellow hockey lover, a colleague that we work with day in and day out, some of which we're going to hear from over the next few minutes. First up, I'm privileged to read a couple of tributes on behalf of two people who worked with Wayne at Stelco. This first one is from Ezra Rosen. He writes, "My friendship with Wayne began in the early 90s when we were both involved with Stelco's WIN program. Over a period of 10 or more years, Wayne and I spent more time together at the Elora Mill Inn than we did with our own families. My youngest daughter would respond to, 'Where is your father?' by saying, 'He was at Laura's house.' At Laura's house, Wayne and I were the family. I started my career with Alcan and spent many years at the aluminum smelter in Arvida. It was in my blood. Wayne was a steelman. He spent enough years at Hilton Works to ooze Stelco from every pore. When we first met, given our differences, we eyed each other warily. To initiate me into the Stelco world, Wayne offered to give me a complete tour of Hilton Works so that I could become acquainted with all the different aspects of steelmaking. While I didn't appreciate it at the time, this was Wayne's way of testing me to see if I had the mettle to survive in the Stelco environment. He provided me with steel-toed boots, a hard hat, and a coat to cover the suit I inappropriately wore for the tour. The one place I recall where Wayne really put me to the test was the iron works. He wanted to show me how the molten iron was poured from these huge vats. We got very close, too close from my vantage point, so we could see and feel what was involved. Sparks were flying everywhere. I could see my suit heading to the garbage bin after this experience, but I didn't move. I was determined not to show Wayne the anxiety I was feeling. Given Wayne's reaction, I could tell from that moment on that I was someone who would probably survive 2 weeks with the Stelco guys at the WIN program in Elora. Wayne and I spent enough time in Elora that the locals soon adopted us as one of their own. They counted on Stelco sending 24 well-paid employees to Elora for 2 weeks while they had ample time to visit the shops and keep the economy going. In 1994, Elora was taken over by a crew filming Trapped in Paradise. The film starred Nicolas Cage, John Lovitz, and Dana Carvey of Wayne's World. Elora was converted into a sleepy Pennsylvania town, including the local gas station, advertising a gallon of gas at a ridiculously low price. The crew were all over the place, doing whatever was necessary to support the filming. At the start, they would regularly come into our classroom to make demands to move cars or use cars, etc. I could tell that this annoyed Wayne. With respect to the faculty, Wayne felt that we needed to keep the participants focused on the program. In his mind, nobody had the right to disturb this serious flow of the day. He stationed himself at the door of the room, and initially there were loud, heated exchanges using plant floor language between Wayne and the stagehands wanting something or another. The stagehands felt that they were making a movie and that nothing was more important. But Wayne had a different idea, and from then on, there were no more disturbances. Wayne's passing has allowed me to think back to all the time we spent together, both at Elora and in Hamilton and Burlington. Our lives interacted at so many levels. It wasn't just managing the initial WIN program, but also managing the Stelco executives, designing and delivering phases 2 and 3 of the program, working in his woodworking shop, and even playing a round of golf. I will remember him fondly. Thank you, Ezra. And this is from his colleague and friend, Brenda Bainham, and she writes, Good evening. First of all, I would like to extend my condolences to Donna and family on Wayne's passing. My name is Brenda Bainham. I worked with Wayne at Stelco during the years that he was the manager of training and development. This was at the onset of the development of the WIN program, a 2-week leadership program held off-site. As you can imagine, the development of the program was one thing, as Ezra Rosen can attest to, but implementing, organizing, scheduling, and running the program was not an easy task. They certainly found the right man for the job, which made my job easier, which was a blessing, as subsequent programs followed. Just imagine trying to coordinate all levels of management in groups from a 24/7 operation in an off-site location for 2 weeks. Not an easy task, even with the buy-in of senior management. But Wayne tackled this the same way he did everything else, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. Wayne and I soon got into the rhythm of the process, and I'd hold down the fort at the office while he was holding it all together off-site. I know I had the easier job based on some of the stories I heard on his return, but for the most part, it ran smoothly. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed working with Wayne. His sense of humor and easygoing personality made for a great day at work. But don't be fooled, Wayne was no pushover. He had an abundance of tact and diplomacy, but if that wasn't working, the hockey referee would come out. Needless to say, we shared stories about our families, and I heard many great stories about Donna and the boys. Although I did not get to meet the boys and subsequently wives and grandchildren, I certainly felt like I knew them. Wayne also used what he liked to call his farm boy skills to fix things around the office and hang pictures himself rather than wait for a maintenance guy to do it. He had a little brown toolbox in his office that he would take with him on his missions. I am now the proud owner of that toolbox, and I can't tell you how many times it has come in handy. We also shared a love of older furniture and refinishing. He was better at the latter, although he did share with me his 500-step program for the perfect finish. You can check with my husband. I only did one chair that way. I still do love refinishing and painting furniture, cupboards, and nightstands, and Wayne is often on my mind when I'm doing that. I just hope he's not mad that I skip a few steps. I hadn't seen him in a few years, but we corresponded through email and Christmas cards so I could get updated on his and Donna's most recent adventures. I'd like to thank Howie for the honor of remembering Wayne at this celebration of his life. He was my boss, my colleague, but most important of all, my friend. Rest easy, Wayne. We love you and we miss you. Thank you, Brenda. And now, let's hear from Wayne's longtime friend and neighbor, Larry Dean.
Hey guys, it's Larry. I need this drink. We've lived across the street from Wayne and Donna now for, time flies, but 28 years. Not just me, but like Linda and the kids as well. I do want to say on behalf of our family to all of you, we want to pass on our sincere condolences. It's an absolute honor for me to participate in this celebration of Wayne. Lately we've had a lot of snow and we've been shoveling a lot. And I can't help but think about Wayne. You just know he was always the leader of the pack when it came to the snow shoveling brigade, as I would call it. And of course, none of us could go in and be finished until everybody's driveway was done and clean and walkways were cleaned. And next thing you know, the snow plow would come around and here we go again. Boy, he was a taskmaster and an absolute workhorse. I'm not sure if any of you have had the experience of getting into a project with Wayne. As a matter of fact, the room I'm sitting in right now he helped me build, and we like to call it the guitar room. And I was telling Howie, I was sharing a story with Howie about Wayne was a bugger. He would send me off to pick up supplies, and we had to install a barn door, and I for the life of me couldn't figure out how we were going to get it done. And Wayne had a skill saw and a couple of sawhorses, and by the time I got back from picking up supplies, which was a strategy of his for sure, he had cut that by hand and installed it, and I was just like, what? But anyway, that's Wayne, and again, would never stop the project until it was done. He put us all, who were much younger, to shame. Even Brett, our son, he's half my age and would have been, I guess, a quarter of Wayne's age, or anyway, he was quite a bit younger. And even Brett would say, like, Dad, for heaven's sakes, like Gino, he's a workhorse. And it didn't matter what we were doing, whether it was any construction for that matter, decks, plumbing, electrical, laying a patio. He even built our fireplace in our living room. And we did have a nickname, and maybe you've heard this. We had a nickname for Wayne and Donna. It was Gino and the Missus. And you're probably wondering, where the heck did that come from? And it actually came from Wayne. And because Wayne would constantly refer to himself as doing Gino work, and it actually stuck. So for the last 10 years or so, it's been Gino and the Missus, or Gino and Mrs. H. I was talking to Howie recently again about how Wayne would pop over just to take a look at what you were up to, what project you were doing, and before you knew it, it was Wayne actually doing all the work. Once again, he'd send you out to pick up supplies, or to make him a nice hot and black coffee, while Wayne went ahead and completed the project. As for hot and black, if you've hung around Wayne for any length of time, has anybody ever seen anyone drink a coffee as hot as what Wayne Hill would do, just in one down the hatch shot? I couldn't believe it. As for projects, to this day, I have a very clear image of Wayne walking across the street, work boots undone, usually a tool or two tucked under his arm, and wearing a hat. And he was always clear to say, it's not a Tilly hat, it's like a Indiana Wayne hat. It was that brown hat that he wore all the time. It was kind of cool, actually. Over the years, too, there's just so many stories and so many memories we could share with you, but we certainly have, and Donna would attest to this, had many incredible dinners in the backyard, and lots of good food, and certainly lots of good company, music, probably too much red wine, if you believe that. Hang on just a minute, I need a drink. To Wayne. And so yeah, we would send Wayne and Donna and Gino and the Missus off and watch them kind of walk kind of sideways on the odd occasion back to their house across the street. And they always made it home safely. That's the main thing. When I think of Wayne, there's again so many stories and so many things I could say. There's certain things that I think one word would sum him up. And I just have a couple of words here. Well, probably more than a couple, but certainly friend, fixer, teacher, world traveler. I think Wayne would like this one. Not a bad referee. We always had lots of good chats about hockey, and him being a ref and me playing junior hockey, and so we had a lot in common with that. A dog lover. Oh man, when we had our black lab, Maggie, there was times when we'd be looking for her, and of course, you knew where to find her. She was at the Hills back door, jumping up and down, straight up and down 3 feet in the air, waiting for Wayne to come out. and she'd lick his hair, and he'd be all disheveled, and he'd be bringing her back across the street with a cookie. It was just something to see. So dog lover for sure, dependable, that's a given. A plant whisperer, I think I'm in serious trouble this spring as far as plants are concerned, because he'd tell me the same story every single year. Hey Wayne, when do I cut this back? When can I do that? Yeah, okay, you cut that one back when the flowers bloom and the bugs fly. I don't know. I'm in serious trouble. A gardener, obviously, considerate, stubborn. I say that in a very kind way. It wasn't even, I'm going to say, 4 months ago that I was sitting at my desk and I could always spy on him, especially when he wasn't well at the end. I could keep a close eye on him, and honestly, I'm sitting there, I'm on a conference call, and I look across, and there's Wayne Hill, when he was really wobbly, up on his roof with a leaf blower blowing out his eavesdrops. I didn't even attempt to get up and give him shit, because I knew it didn't matter. He was up there doing it, and nobody was going to tell him any different. So stubborn in that kind of way. I would say proud, obviously very stoic, outdoor lover. Wayne never had a bad word to say about anybody, and he certainly loved his family. Over the years, Wayne has shared and taught me lots of life lessons, for which I'll be forever grateful. In closing, I just want to share with you a kind of classic ritual that I would have with Wayne as I either got home from work or stepped out of the house, and it would go like this. I'll miss him shouting this across the road to me, "Hey boss!" And my response would be, "What's up, Gino?" And he would respond and say, "In 2 words, not much." That's exactly what he would say. So again, everybody, be good to each other, take good care, and here's to one of a kind, Mr. Wayne Hill. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you, Larry. And this is from another neighbor and dear friend, Steve Walker. What possible words can be spoken to adequately summarize a man's life, especially one like Wayne's? I met Wayne and Donna about 25 years ago when I moved in next door, and the connection was instant. Maybe it was because his son Paul was also a police officer, but from that first moment, we became immediate friends, and that turned into so much more. I clearly remember after just meeting Wayne that he was filling in his pool with what seemed to be an endless supply of dump trucks full of sandy loam. I look back now and think, I must have really liked him to take 3 days off work to help him drag wheelbarrow after wheelbarrow full of dirt to the back of his house. It was in these times that Wayne became my mentor and also my dad, and I loved him for that. I was always in awe of how he carried himself and lived his life in such a selfless manner, and without hesitation was always there for family, friends, neighbors, and myself. He exemplified the qualities of loyalty, honesty, and integrity. As the years passed and our relationship grew, we only became closer. We regularly sat for hours on end under that huge linden tree in the backyard, drinking coffee and having the occasional smoke, discussing and solving the world's problems. I knew then that rarely in one's life would you ever be so lucky to meet a man like Wayne, especially one that you could call all of those things. It was during those times that I learned so much, not only about Wayne and myself, but about life in general. If you had a problem and needed an expert opinion, Wayne was your man. There are people in this world that know a little about a lot of things, and there are people who know a lot about a few things. But Wayne was the only person that I've ever known who knew a lot about everything. No matter what the subject was, whether it was home renovations, mechanics, kids, landscape, girls, or just life in general, Wayne knew about it, and hence why he was affectionately dubbed as the wise man. Wayne became my stepdad, and I became his stepson. His guidance and long chats during my own wife's illness and ultimate death taught me the true meaning of resilience. He was always my safe shoulder for me to cry on, and I could and did talk to him about absolutely everything. A more humbler man you could not find. He loved his wife and sons and was always very proud to catch me up on what all the grandchildren were up to. We had so many good times together, including our famous family trip to Notre Dame. We have all lost a great man. In fact, the greatest man that I have ever known. And I and everyone who knew him will miss him deeply. Thank you, Steve. Next, we're going to hear from Mike Veerman. Mike is the head referee and director for the Burlington Old Timers Hockey Club, speaking for everyone at the BOHC who had the pleasure of knowing Wayne.
Veerman. I'm the referee-in-chief of the Burlington Old Timers Hockey Club. And, I'd like to express our condolences as a club and as the referees for Wayne's passing just recently. Wayne joined the club in April of 2004, so I know he hung up the skates a couple of years back, so a member for at least 15, 16 years. And I know all the comments, there have been 93 Facebook comments on the BOHC, and a lot of them players recognizing his contributions as an official, not only in the Old Timers Hockey League, but right from when they were little toddlers right up until now that they're playing in Old Timers hockey. So, and I know one of the referees actually passed along a message that, he said, it's amazing how things go around. He was just a young kid in minor hockey, novice, pee-wee or whatever, and Wayne was refereeing, officiating, and then he actually was doing work at Steinway Arena, and he was a teenager at the time, and Wayne was refereeing the Sunday commercial league that was playing out of Skyway, and then later on he's on the ice officiating with Wayne, and of course Wayne in his true form, helped this guy out who really didn't have a referee's background, but he did, but Wayne just brought him along and gave him the tips as Wayne always does. And and for me personally, that's what Wayne was a wonderful mentor. When I became referee-in-chief and we had discussions, we always brought Wayne around to the table of 3 or 4 of us to discuss what was going on, how we'd move things further, what kind of rules we should have, stuff like that. And Wayne always provided a good opportunity, good wisdom. And of course, when he hung him up, he was sorely missed. He was always my go-to time. I'm sure Donna can attest to that, the number of evening phone calls where I'd get a phone call from some guy stuck at work, sick, can't make his game, whatever, and I'd call Wayne. And, almost 75, 90% of the time, Wayne would go out the door and he'd go grab those games for me. So he was a real strength to our crew as an official and a guy, just a go-to guy. And I remember times even being on the ice with him, and it's kind of funny now. I'd be on the ice, and all of a sudden we'd hear this whistle, and play would stop, and Wayne would go over to the penalty box and kick the door and close it, and I'm sitting there thinking, okay, he blew the call, and he's not going to admit it. And he would just say, okay, everything's fine, go back and play. So he was a real thoughtful guy, and I know on the ice he had a lot of comments with the players, and an overall good guy, and he will certainly sorely be missed by everyone. So just wish that along, and we've got his jersey here, as you can see, and we'll see what we can do with that and make sure that it'll actually get back to the family should we not be able to use it on the walls here. So, and we'll see what happens. So best to everybody, and like I said, he'll be sorely missed. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Mike. So he was a hockey referee, a colleague, a boss, a neighbor, a mentor, and friend. But the biggest, most important thing in life for Wayne was family. Somebody once said Grandpa had a way of making you feel like he had been waiting for just you all day, and now the day was complete. It's now my pleasure to welcome his grandchildren who are going to share some of their experiences. Jarvis, Austin, Emma, and Bridget. Thanks.
2 medium black, 2 4-cheese bagels, light butter. It doesn't matter the time of the day. I'm serious, it could have been midnight and he still would have ordered coffee. Where we were, what we were on our way to do, but Pops would order this every single time we went through the drive-thru at Timmy's, and then jokingly ask if I wanted a French vanilla or cream in my coffee, even though he would never dare drink it himself. He was probably the most consistent person I've ever met in my entire life. I'm the oldest of the grandchildren, which means I got around 4 years of the first from Pops as a grandfather. The love he had for his grandchildren was so deep and strong, it was truly admirable. My mother recently reminded me of a time he and Graham had driven up from to Blind River to see me in a Christmas concert that I was performing as a junior kindergarten student. I froze, didn't sing at all, didn't even open my mouth, and he and Graham had made the 6-hour journey only to see me say absolutely nothing and then drove all the way back as soon as it was over. This is the kind of stuff Pops did, and I'm sure he would have done it 5 times over, even if it was a 3-day journey. When my father, his son, died in 2006, Pops became the male role model in my life, basically becoming my second dad. He was there for us with whatever it may be. He would drive up, fix anything that needed to be fixed, watch my brother and I participate in sporting events, drive us anywhere for anything, and also give us a little kick in the butt if we needed and deserved it. He was always the one I would call whenever I needed advice on anything throughout elementary, middle, or high school. Then became the best 4 years really of my life. And when I accepted my offer to study at the University of Guelph for my bachelor's degree, I remember Pops being so excited that I was to be closer geographically to he and Graham, but I never realized just how special and important them being there for me would be. Pops became my rock, the person I'd call if I was having a tough time studying, if my roommates were being particularly annoying, or if I just needed to pick me up. If I needed a weekend out at Guelph, we would drive back, listening either to Willie Nelson or Snora, he would say, Jones, with Pop's patent-pending humming in the background. It would be my escape, the way I could clear my head so I could keep going hard in my studies, and then every Sunday before we would leave, he would always ask me, well, did you get done what you wanted to get done? It wasn't only the weekend adventures. Pops would ring me on the weekend or a weekday and ask if I wanted to go have coffee or a dinner or just a Sunday drive. Pops was probably the most level-headed, wisest man I have ever known. I will cherish the advice, his little pointers, his motivating one-liners for the rest of my life. With me being in Guelph as well, Pops and Graham became even closer to my mother's side of the family. He helped not one, but 2 of my cousins find places in the Burlington-Hamilton area, and I vividly remember him telling me just how much this all meant to him, being able to help them out as well. I'm not going to lie, I feel completely lost with him gone. I have lost not only my grandfather, but my second dad, and the last big male role model in my life. Wherever I end up in my life, I owe a great deal to Pops, and I will continue to work harder and harder, as he would always tell me to do. I love you, big time, Pops, and miss you so much.
My grandfather, Pops, as I called him, was a great man and a fantastic role model to me. Great grandfather, too. He was truly all about helping those he loved, being his family and friends. The amount of hours he must have spent on the road doing that must be some sort of record. One strong story in particular I think of when I think of him helping us out, just doing everything he could to help, was when I was going to a football camp in Ohio. And we drove down there, me, my mom, and my brother, and we were spending the night in Burlington before departing in the morning, and we realized that we had forgot my passport in Sudbury. So this was probably midnight. We came, and we were going to leave the next morning to ensure that I could make it to the camp on time. So, in a classic Papa move, he drove up to Sudbury to get the passport and drove back down all in one trip in order that I could cross the border so I could make it to this camp on time. There's so many stories like this I have of him, including, like when him and Grams would drive all the way from Burlington and Buffalo just to take me out for pizza and then head right back. I often think, too, of the great memories of our annual trip, which have included Notre Dame, the Football Hall of Fame, the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Lacrosse Hall of Fame, and a few fishing trips along the way. These are great memories, and I'll definitely cherish them for life. But more than the trips and experiences on the trips, I'll really just cherish the time that I was able to spend with him, because he was truly the wisest and really the coolest man I've ever met. Very laid back. Well, you guys know him. And just those man to young kid moments, so to speak, where he kind of taught me things and gave me quotes on how to act. And one quote in particular, I remember him always telling me was, "I hear what you say, but I believe what I see." And that's something that's always going to resonate with me, and, I'll think of throughout my life. And he was a great man.
If there's one thing that everyone can agree on about Pops is how kind-hearted and dedicated of a person he was. They don't come more genuine than my Pops. When my parents found out that there was lead in our old house when I was a baby and I had somehow been eating it, Pops went through every single window and cleaned him and painted over it to seal it. I remember him letting me tag along as I drew on the windowsills my silly little drawings. Pops was also incredibly tough. The best way for me to illustrate this is to talk about the time he fell off our roof while he was fixing our shingles. He landed on a plastic bucket, cut his head open, and was bleeding all over the place, but he told us he didn't want an ambulance. He was fine. Well, we called one anyways, and he was taken away to the hospital. Our friend was over at the time and thought it was a good time to tell us that the last time her grandpa was in an ambulance, he died. I was a very terrified 7-year-old, to say the least, but Pops was out of the hospital that day and was completely fine. Pops, you taught me so much about life, and I can only hope to be as strong and kind of a person as you were. I love you.
My grandpa was the one that taught me how to ride my bike. We were in the parking lot next to the park, and the wheels were clicking as you got me to go faster and faster. When I was a kid, I got cold a lot. Like a lot. You would always take my sweatshirt and put it in the dryer so that it would be warm when I came inside from playing in the snow. You took me to the American Girl doll store. Multiple times. And you taught me how to ice skate. You came to as many musicals as you could, and even though they were never any good, you and Grandma still sat there and cheered louder than anyone else in that audience. I know you're happy now. And I know you want us to be happy. But I still think that whenever I pick up the phone, there's going to be a part of me that's waiting to hear your voice saying, "How's the most beautiful granddaughters in all of Chicago doing?" I love you, Grandpa.
Clara Ortega wrote, "To the outside world, we all grow old, but not to brothers and sisters. We know each other as we always were. We know each other's hearts. We share private family jokes. We remember family feuds and secrets, family griefs and joys. We live outside the touch of time." This is a tribute to Wayne from his sister, Marlene Patterson. And she writes, "Wayne was my big brother, someone to whom I looked for advice, help, and information. It was Wayne who I called for permission to go out on a first date with Bob, as my mother was not home. After many questions, he said yes, and I left a note for my mother saying I had Wayne's permission. As so many people know, Wayne was right there to offer help, like helping to lay a new floor in Amy's condo or helping Bob install crown molding. He was our go-to guy for gardening advice and information. He enjoyed taking Howie and Paul on adventures, and Bob joined them for a couple of canoe trips. Wayne took great interest and pride in keeping us up to date about their grandchildren and always asked us about ours. The day we took Wayne from Juravinsky Hospital to Joseph Brant Hospital, the last day I was with him, he thanked me for doing that, or as he said, for looking after me. I said, "Hey, you must have looked after me many times when I was young, and you likely didn't want to." He said, diplomatically, of course, "Oh no, you were always pretty good and no problem." I told him he was being very kind and probably forgot after all of these years. And so we had a good laugh about that. Thank you, Wayne. Love you and miss you. Thank you, Marlene. And now let's hear from Wayne's other sister, Lynn Laverick.
First, I want to thank everyone for sharing this memorial with Wayne's family this evening. Wayne never liked to have anyone make a fuss over him and found it difficult to receive appreciation. So I want to say thank you on his behalf. As a younger sister, I may have a unique perspective, as would Marlene. When I reflect on Wayne's life, I see him as having been a caretaker, caregiver, protector. In all his roles, I believe we can see him through this perspective. When he was only 2 years old, Wayne changed my life for the better and gave me the nickname Lynn. He took care of bullies for me at elementary school. As a 17-year-old, he parked behind me at a drive-in movie theater. He was there to look out for me. He helped me move from home to home. When I became a single woman, Wayne became my ever-faithful handyman and also chauffeured me home from surgeries in his Cadillac, which I affectionately called the limousine. I feel so privileged to have spent frequent visits with Wayne and Donna in the past 2 years, along with my husband Ken, even during the pandemic lockdowns. Wayne and I often talked about the unyielding medical journey he was traveling. Wayne's role as a caregiver continued with Mother in her senior years when he vacuumed her apartment very, very thoroughly each week under her careful scrutiny as he moved every piece of furniture. Similar roles continued within his immediate family and friends and acquaintances. He loved his family deeply and was so happy to spend the time supporting them in whatever ways were needed. He suffered deeply when his son Paul died, but put his grief aside to become a substitute father figure for Jarvis and Austin. He was so very grateful for every moment he spent with them in their activities. And with Sarah, how he longed to visit with you in Georgia, Jarvis. Wayne also considered it a true joy to travel frequently to Chicago to visit with Howie and his family. It was never too much trouble to get in the car, put the music on, and go to see his girls, Emma and Bridget, and to share their many activities. I know that all the grandchildren can remember many special times with Wayne. He would do whatever was needed, whenever it was needed, and with great joy. And Donna, these past 2 years, Wayne experienced several different treatment protocols and tried so hard to stay here because he wanted to be with you. He continued to care for you and protect you. He shopped, cleaned, cooked, and drove for simple outings. And so now I ask each of you to spend 5 seconds to remember the best or happiest memory you have of Wayne. Hold that memory in your heart when you remember him. I suspect that memory may be one of Wayne being a caretaker or protector in some fashion. Your job is done, Wayne. Rest in peace, dear brother.
Thanks, Lynn. Robert Sexton wrote, "In a time when nothing is more certain than change, the commitment of two people to one another has become difficult and rare. Yet, by its scarcity, the beauty and the value of this exchange have only been enhanced." Wayne spent an incredible 60 years being married to the love of his life, Donna. And those years, of course, were filled with many ups and many downs. Throughout everything that they went through, Wayne and Donna shared a real compatibility and a deep mutual respect for each other. In this marriage, it was safe to be completely open with each other. And here's what I found interesting. Donna told me that neither of them ever felt the need to take the reins in their relationship. They simply walked together step by step. So it's at this point that I'm privileged to read some words of thanks on behalf of his wife, Donna. I want to thank all of you, dear friends, best neighbors ever, and our wonderful families for all of the support and encouragement that you all have provided us in this journey. Wayne is a true hero. He fought hard, never complained, and he bore the weight of this cancer burden with his legendary stoicism, always considering the worry and concern of all of his friends, neighbors, colleagues, and family. He always felt the love that you had for him, and be assured, he loved all of you back. Thanks, Donna. Well, friends and family, we have just heard some amazing stories and reflections on Wayne's life. And earlier on, I encouraged you to think about the metaphor of the game of his life and some of the important calls that Wayne made throughout his. Hockey legend Wayne Gretzky famously said, "You miss 100% of the shots you never take." So another way you could think about it is the wide variety of shots that we take or don't take in our life. And I'm sure that Wayne would love to know that his life has so impacted each one of yours that you would continue to be inspired as you think about the shots that you take in your own lives. In preparation for this service, I was fortunate enough to have a friend connect me with an NHL referee, Michael Markovic, who gave me a little bit of insight on the life of a referee that I think will help us as we close thinking about Wayne's legacy. When I asked Michael what made a good official, there were 5 things that he said that stood out for me. Number 1, a love of the game. Markovic told me that Wayne would have had to do it for the pure love of the game, because outside of the NHL, refs don't get paid a lot to go all over traveling across the province. Wayne did this on top of his full-time job and family life. Clearly, he had a passion for the game. Number 2, thick skin. Michael talked about what a thankless job refereeing is, how you need to have thick skin, as you will rarely hear praise when you're calling the game right, but always hear when others don't think that you made the right call. It's a hell of a job, the 3rd president of the NHL, Clarence Campbell, said in 1964, ruminating on the referee's lot. A man has to have iron in his soul, the will to command. Number 3, teamwork. He talked about the sense of camaraderie and connection with the other officials that you work with, how they're like a third team on the ice. They've got each other's backs. Number 4, discernment. He talked about the need for deep insight and understanding of why players do certain things. Refs need to be able to anticipate and know where the players are going to go, to react to what they're doing, to get inside their heads. And finally, number 5, integrity. He talked about the ultimate quality in a good referee is to uphold the integrity of the game, know the rules, and follow through. So what does all of this have to do with Wayne outside of him as a hockey ref? Well, I think that it pretty succinctly sums up so much of how he lived the entirety of his life. Number one, the game of life is so much better when you have a pure love and passion for it. Of course, we all might be thinking about that having a passion for life has been harder in recent months. But I think that we can all take something away from the way that Wayne lived, and with such a zest for life and fierce determination to stay positive no matter what. I know for me personally, the practice of gratitude has been a lifesaver these days. Number two, persevere. Have thick skin, whether on the ice or off. There will always be the whiners, the negative Nellies, I like to call them out there. But it's important to know the difference between feedback worth listening to and the unhelpful criticism that you can just let roll off like water off a duck's back. Number three, teamwork. Who's on your team in life? And how are you showing up for them? 4, discernment. If refs need to be able to get inside the players' heads and anticipate where they're going, perhaps the lesson here for us is to learn from the people around us. I think that there is much wisdom to be gained by watching and observing people closely, like Wayne clearly did in so many areas of his life, and learning from them. And then finally, 5, integrity. This one speaks for itself, I think. Uphold your own integrity. Know the rules of the game of life and follow through on what's most important. One of my all-time favorite quotes is from Helen Keller. She said, "What we have once enjoyed, we can never lose. All that we love deeply becomes part of us." So, friends and family, the questions that I want to leave you with here today are, first, how is Wayne part of you? And how do you hope for this incredible legacy to affect the one that you'll leave one day? As we close, I hope that you've all come prepared with a bowl of water or some kind of container of water, and then a coin or a button or something small that you can drop inside of it. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3. And then when I say 3, we are all going to collectively drop our object in the water at the same time. When you do this, I want to encourage you, notice the ripple that your pebble or that your object makes in the water, and be reminded of the ripple effects that Wayne's life had on yours and in the world around him. And after you drop it in, I'm going to allow for just a couple of moments of quiet so that you have the opportunity to reflect. And if you like, share in the comment section one quality that you saw in Wayne that you want to focus more on in your own life as you remember him. Or maybe it's one thing that you're going to do in order to keep his memory alive. It could be absolutely anything. Maybe you'll decide that you're going to travel more and experience more of the world once we're able to again. Or look for ways to mentor someone personally or professionally. Perhaps you'll decide to be more intentional in getting to know your neighbors and helping them out with projects, or showing up for your grandkids the way he did over and over again in whatever ways that you're able to. Even if you don't want necessarily to share here in the chat on YouTube, I do want to encourage each one of you to send a message to Donna and Howie and the family, letting them know what it is that you're doing to keep Wayne's memory alive. I can tell you it will mean the world. All right, let's grab it together. And on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Thank you for sharing, everyone. As I listened to Wayne's family share about him, it was words like emotional strength, grace, humility, perseverance, a generosity that knew no depths, a reliability, a dependability. If Wayne said he was going to do it, you better believe he was going to do it. It was qualities like this that really stood out for me. And let me tell you, friends, family, it's been my experience that it's these kinds of qualities that really get the most airtime at the end of the day. It's what New York Times writer David Brooks refers to as the eulogy virtues versus the resume virtues that we're taught to value in our society. It's these things that get the most airtime and that I believe lead to rich and meaningful lives. And I think that when we incorporate these things into our own lives in that way, Wayne will never truly leave you. Allow me to offer you a final blessing as we close. May you feel blessed to have known Wayne Hill. May you go forward today with the memories of him in your heart. May those memories begin to bring comfort rather than pain. May the words, touch, and presence of others bring solace. And as you go about the game of your lives, may you be inspired by Wayne's love of life, perseverance, discernment, integrity, and love and fierce commitment to all of you who are lucky enough to be on his team. Thank you again for joining us tonight, everyone. Take care.